Drop your location and your local time in the comments. He rolls up to his grandfather's ranch, expecting the hush of pasture wind. Not a blizzard of bright orange tags slapping the front door like bureaucratic confetti. $4 $200 in fines announced by fonts angrier than they need to be. Pajamas, flip-flops, a coffee mug that says, "World's most average person," and one humble Phillips screwdriver for a new doorbell. That's the whole vibe, more Saturday morning sitcom than stakeout, yet the porch reads like a crime scene drawn by a highlighter. He peels one notice-free, the adhesive louder than the birds, and mutters that if long grass is a felony, every prairie is on the run. Joke one lands gently in the dust. "Excuse me, you're trespassing," a voice declares. Lori Hartwell power walks over in a vest that literally reads Community Standards Enforcer in rhinestones, plus a laminated badge and a tape measure riding her hip like a sheriff's sidearm. It's cosplay that sparkles so hard it could guide ships at night. Joke 2 salutes. Quirky tidbit for the day, ancient Egyptians mixed crocodile dung and natron as sunscreen. This vest carries the same who asked for this energy bookmark it because he'll call back to that glittering oddity later. She clocks the screwdriver like it's contraband. Historians still argue whether medieval sumptuary laws ever worked, but on this gravel driveway, Lori tries one anyway. No pajamas, no peace, no doorbells without her blessing. She dials 911 to report an armed intruder with burglary tools, the tool being again a Phillips head, and the patrol cars arrive fast enough to make the wind skip a beat. The lead officer scans Pajama Guy, then the screwdriver, then Lori's clipboard, which has more tabs than a browser with commitment issues. Joke 3 practically signs the report. ID deed inheritance papers. He hands them over, all edges crisp enough to cut glass. The officer's face does that slow reboot you see when a printer suddenly works on the first try. "Ma'am, he owns the property," the officer says, words as gentle as a warning label. Lori pivots, declares fines due immediately, and tries to invoice the morning air. He stays calm, relaxed. Host energy, says. He works in data processing, will need proper documentation, will pay legitimate fees like a grown-up if they exist. She smirks. "So you push papers," and he smiles like a barista who knows the secret menu joke, 4 steamed to perfection. The call clears with an ankle-deep sigh from the patrol. Joke 5, her clipboard wears more tactical gear than most action figures. When the cruisers roll away, Grace Rodriguez arrives with a plate of still-warm cookies, neighborhood ceasefire protocol, and an apologetic wince. She whisper laughs that Lori has called the cops on 6 families in 2 years. 3 moved away, 3 learned to live quieter than a library at finals. Then, like a backyard archivist, she hints at folders, photos, dates, budgets that never quite add up. Questionable activities, she calls them, letting the phrase hang like laundry you pretend not to notice. He thanks her bites into butterscotch hero fuel and watches the orange papers tremble whenever the breeze remembers its lines. Joke 6, somewhere a staple dreams of tenure. Evening folds over the pasture, crickets tuning up like a garage band. The ranch is the same dusk, a sky big enough to park dreams, but the rules feel heavier, like someone swapped common sense for a checklist. He photographs every tag, emails himself, timestamps, opens a folder called Orange Snow, and logs the minute a rhinestone patrol tried to repossess his peace. Patience plus paperwork, he decides, beats panic plus glitter every day of the week. Joke 7, lightly salted. And while Lori congratulates herself across the street, he lines his evidence like fence posts, each one set true, because if the morning brought confetti, the night brings a ledger, and he knows exactly how to balance it. He spends the next mornings logging, labeling, photographing evidence lined like fence posts, straight enough to give a spirit-level self-esteem, and he starts taking his boring government calls by the tomato beds where the breeze carries syllables better than any speakerphone. Audit trail exemption, revocation, unallowable expense. He seasons the air with those phrases like salt, and across the line, Laurie's hedge trimmer freezes mid-buzz the way a cat freezes when the can opener sings. He talks softly but lets the jargon ride the wind, relaxed host cadence like a cooking show where the main ingredient is paperwork. Historians still argue whether public pageantry actually makes authority feel real, but out here, the rhinestones look like props, and the calm voice sounds like law. He laughs to himself. If caution tape could roll its eyes, it would then jots, time stamps, uploads photos to a folder named Orange Snow, and sips coffee that tastes like victory with a hint of dust. By Thursday, she summons a detective, not a patrol backup, in tow notebook, ready the kind of pen that makes Caps nervous. Laurie presents a binder with tabs, sub-tabs, and a table of contents trying to stand at attention. Even the plastic sleeves look at him like they demand salutes. He stays warm and courteous, offers deed and ID, and when the detective requests federal identification, he lets the leather open like dusk opening its first stars. The badge catches late light. Her bedazzled vest instantly reads as a knockoff constellation. Jordan Blake, he says evenly, and the porch seems to lean closer. The detective's posture shifts from what seems to be the problem to "Ma'am, please stop making problems." Laurie's mouth forms a question mark that forgot its grammar, and he keeps the tone friendly. Think park ranger, but for numbers explaining he'll need the reports filed against him for the federal record. Somewhere a wind chime laughs politely. Remember that crocodile dung sunscreen he does because some protections are theatrical and some actually block the burn? Today glitter loses to federal SPF. Quirky tidbit time. The first famous commercial paper shredder is credited to a 1930s German tinkerer inspired by a spaghetti cutter. Laurie's model, however, prefers jam to justice and eats at the speed of a sleepy goat. 10 minutes after he notes a formal compliance review, she attempts diplomacy via an envelope labeled Community Appreciation. 8 crisp hundreds folded like origami denial. He records the moment calm as a librarian, and her face cycles through confusion, realization, then a panic so loud even the birds practice silence. She calls an emergency HOA meeting to vote the IRS out of jurisdiction, which is like voting gravity off the porch. The motion fails to stick even with extra tape. She sprints home to feed 3 years of budgets to that heroic shredder which nobly chooses martyrdom after 10 pages teeth-locked strips jutting like a porcupine of receipts, while Grace arrives with binders and a cookie encore. Grocery runs masquerading as landscaping, gas station car washes, billed as community vehicle maintenance and conference lodging that look suspiciously like mouse-eared happiness, each page a confetti cannon that forgot its party. Historians still argue whether panic spreads faster than facts. Yet today the facts jog past in sensible shoes, waving a cheerful hello. Backup answers. The porch, a copier whirs at the detective's elbow, a bank alert freezes, transfers the property manager, forwards months of ignored complaints like a dam deciding to be a river. Neighbors step out from behind curtains, voices collecting like evening swallows. Someone brings a camp chair. Someone else brings lemonade. And suddenly the cul-de-sac feels like civics class with better snacks. He explains next steps in plain English, the way you'd explain thunder to a skittish horse, and the relief is almost visible dust settling through a golden kitchen window beam. Laurie, meanwhile, invents new cardio sprint to shredder sprint to printer sprint to excuses Fitbit history's most dramatic Tuesday. He keeps noting, keeps breathing, keeps the rhythm of a host who knows the episode's twist has already aired, because the badge is real, the binder is recorded, and the neighborhood is finally daring to speak at a normal volume. By sunrise, the paperwork wakes up the way thunder wakes horses, federal, methodical, inevitable. Charges stack like hay bales, tax evasion, mail fraud, interference, each one labeled neat enough to make a librarian blush. The property manager forwards years of ignored complaints. The detective's copier hums like a contented bee. The bank says nope to sudden transfers with the flat authority of a stop sign that pays taxes. He keeps his tone easy, a backyard host explaining brisket because panic is loud but proof is heavier. Historians still argue whether public shaming improves behavior, yet the evening news absolutely improves ratings. Lori, armed with a sash and a monologue, tries primetime anyway. She chooses the community entrance sign as a backdrop, the camera as a confessional, and the truth as an optional accessory. Joke 1, please take a bow. The reporter, blessed by homework, asks about landscaping receipts that smell like grocery aisles. Lori cycles denial, anger, bargaining, and interpretive dance before landing on temporary personal use, which is accountant for please roll the credits. Joke 2 unwraps itself. Neighbors cheer softly from porches. Grace brings lemonade and a grin that forecasts sunny. The board votes interim leadership, the first agenda item being stop the circus, start the minutes. Transparent budgets bloom like desert flowers after rain. Every line item gets sunlight and a surname. Every dollar gets 2 signatures and a bedtime joke, 3 tucks it in. Quirky tidbit for your trivia night in 1955, the first mass-market TV remote was literally named Lazy Bones, which is also what his badge thinks when it sees a 3-inch stack of forged invoices. He logs the live confession, the jammed shredder, the envelope of appreciation, and the detective's polite apology, each moment a post in the fence he started 2 weeks ago when orange snow first fell. Historians still argue whether villains create heroes or communities do, but tonight the block creates picnic tables and brings out folding chairs faster than a marching band finds a halftime. Months pass. Sentencing lands with the gravity Lori tried to veto. Restitution, supervision, a lifetime ban from nonprofit boards. She writes from prison, later applying to be an informant the way a fox applies to lifeguard the henhouse. Joke 4 splashes politely. He shares the letter at training. Rookies learn to spot rhinestones on red flags. Property values climb. Lawns grow for beauty, not for leverage. Kids play tag where clipboards once patrolled. And he, regional now, still porch-boned, keeps answering calls in that calm radio-ready meter, soft on edges, sharp on facts. The crickets resume their union hours, the sky turns long-distance blue, and the ranch breathes like a house that finally learned its own heartbeat again. He sits a little deeper into the porch chair, the kind that remembers every summer and forgives every winter, and the evening slips down the pasture like a quiet stream. Unhurried, generous, carrying small reflections that seem to linger even after they pass the way. Laughter lingers inside a room after the door closes. Somewhere a gate taps its slow metronome against a post. Somewhere a dog decides the whole world is accounted for and curls itself into a tidy comma, and the gravel road, faithful as ever, settles back into its pale whisper of dust. He breathes not the rushed kind he learned in offices or courtrooms, but the long, patient kind that knows how to hold a place without grabbing it. And the field answers with the brushed hush of grass finding its own soft grammar. Windows warm up along the lane squares of honey set carefully into the dusk. And conversations float out in kind pieces, plans for a picnic, a promise to bring extra ice, a reminder that the string lights need one more loop around the oak, nothing urgent, nothing sharp, just the comfortable clatter of neighbors building a small, bright thing together. Even the fence he mended this morning looks a little less like a boundary and a little more like a line in a favorite song, something you hum without noticing, something that keeps time while the melody goes wandering. He lets the minutes lengthen, lets the edges blur, lets the ranch do what old places do when they feel safe again. Remember and release, remember and release. The sky goes velvet at the horizon, a quiet ribbon, and the crickets tune themselves down to a low, even hum, like a careful engine idling on purpose, like the sound a good story makes when it takes off its shoes and walks softly through the house. He closes his eyes and finds the stillness waiting where he left it, ready to be picked up, patient as light on a porch step, calm as a whispered goodnight.